My name's Leszek, and I will be talking to Henrik Mitsch about organizational culture, inclusion, and advice for aspiring leaders in the technology sector.
I'd like to start off with your professional journey. Can you take us briefly through your professional journey leading up to the role of VP at Elli Digital?
So my current role is called VP Digital, and in this role I report to our CTO, and basically I run a team of product managers, digital designers, and software engineers, and we build Elli's digital product portfolio. So Elli does have hardware components. We have wall boxes, we have a DC fast charging station, and we have a software product portfolio. We have our most popular product is the charging card, the mobility service product, the Elli app. And then we also have fleet-based applications, cloud-based software to manage your charging points. We do smart charging functionalities for our wall boxes. So there's a lot of product work in this hybrid field between hardware and software.
Speaking of purpose and purpose-oriented company, can you explain how exactly Elli contributes to decarbonizing the society, which is the term that the company uses to briefly or explain in a nutshell what it does, but can you unpack that a little bit?
Absolutely. So how do we electrify life, right? And when Elli was created, it was created as an add-on to the value proposition that electric vehicles bring to the market. People would think, okay, where can I charge my car when I'm out and about, right? And so with Elli, we built the charging network to basically have the value proposition saying, look, you can be anywhere, you'll find a charging station, and you can use it with our charging card. And then we white label our service for the brands of the Volkswagen group, but you can also use it if you use a different car. And so that was kind of just the start of Elli. And then later on, the value proposition was kind of incrementally expanded. We started to sell wall boxes for people's homes, and then we integrated them into fleet solutions. In Germany, there's always interesting taxation systems, for example. So if you charge a company car at work, you can do this easily. If you charge it at home, you need to make sure you keep track of the amount of energy that goes in to basically get the taxes done right. And we offer solutions for these kind of things, right? And so basically this is how we expand the footprint. And then about half a year ago, we also started to trade energy at the Apex exchange. So we use batteries from after sales to basically store energy or release energy back to the grid. So
when it's needed.
When it's needed, exactly. Or you buy low and you sell high, and there's with these arbitrage deals you can make money.
To give the listeners a little bit of context or show the scale a bit first, but one of the things that I saw in the office was 650,000 number. Basically, these are as I understand it, the number of charging points.
Exactly. So we are basically aggregating charging stations in our app, and we are currently at a little above 650,000. So particularly in the early days, you want to have this safety and assurance that wherever you go, there'll be a charging station that you can work with, right? So these numbers were really important. Now, once you are beyond 500,000 across Europe, you basically have charging stations everywhere. So it's less about quantity, then it becomes much more about quality, making sure that the data you have is right, that if the station is busy, that it says it's busy, or if it's free, it says it's free, and that it's working, that you can start your charging session through the app and so on. And so that's why we also built our own, we call this charging network. So we used to partner with a third party in the beginning to be fast to the market, and then we transitioned, because this is a key asset for us, right? So we fully own our charging network here.
What are the most significant technical challenges when building that kind of system, which is pan-European, multiple devices, hundreds of thousands of devices? What are the challenges you face every day?
Yeah, so I mean, as you say, the charging network and our charging service are the most scaled up service in our product portfolio. Exactly. And so here, I mean, on the one hand, it's about uptime. We need to have good IT operations, and if something breaks, fix it quickly. And then on the other hand, it's also around, we are aggregating hundreds of different charge point operators from across Europe in our offering. And so there's it's a very, very heterogeneous system, different charging stations, different, also, for example, if you look at the end of your charging session, when it's time to pay, billing records, sometimes they are delivered to us immediately, sometimes they're delivered once a month. So it's just a huge set of heterogeneous circumstances that you're dealing with, and you need to build something from a platform perspective. You need to build a platform that is efficient, easy to operate, and maintainable, right? So
with high uptime.
Exactly.
Basically, how much of the portfolio, or what's the part of the portfolio that you consider an exploration, looking for something new? I assume that some of these products are just like pure exploration of opportunities, not established yet, but like you're giving things a try. Is that the case?
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at smart charging, for example, there are several flavors of smart charging. So one thing we already do right now is so-called solar forecast charging. So basically, we have to our backend we have a weather forecast service hooked up, and if you use our app and you tell us where your house is and rough dimensions of the solar panels on your house, we can then approximate when will you have a lot of sun on your roof, and then turn on the car to charge. And it's kind of, but it's a purely cloud-based solution, so to say. The next step is to connect deeper with your home network, home energy system, and do actual solar surplus charging. So you then understand, okay, now I have a surplus of energy in my home network. Now I'm going to charge my car. The next step would be then to hook this up to a energy contract and do price optimized charging or energy mix optimized charging, CO2 optimized charging, all these kind of things, right? And so we are building these capabilities step by step and releasing them to the market. And also, for example, with the solar forecast charging, we did actually a super silent launch last year. Had few people were kind of told that this exists, and then we saw how people took it up, and we deployed it more and marketed it more openly, and so that's the incremental approach we take. Nice. And then especially in our industry, a big thing that we will see in the future is bidirectional charging, and we are looking at the market very, very closely because there's still a lot of technological choices that will have to be taken over the next few years. Bidirectional charging can be done through DC, so you discharge direct current from the car, or AC, you discharge alternating current, which is also the the electricity you use in your home. So there's a lot of kind of technical ecosystem or technical foundational decisions that are approached differently by different car makers, and so in these fields, on the one hand you want to experiment and kind of make sure you are a technology leader. On the other hand, the ecosystem is not at a point yet where you could even scale it, and so we're looking at these things as well.
And the limitations are basically hardware related, right? It's
vehicle platform usually, right? So electric vehicles have different platforms independently of which OEM you talk about, and the automaker decides, do I do DC discharging or do I do AC discharging? And then you need a different ball box in your home. the price points are very different. DC discharging, the wall box costs between 5 and 10,000 euros. AC discharging, the wall box costs between 1 and 3,000 euros. So there's going to be a it's a super interesting technological field. I think the decisions, this is not something that will be decided next year, but it will be decided over the next 3-4 years, and then 5-10 years in the future, it will be like the VHS versus Betamax, we'll have one system, and the whole ecosystem can be built around it then.
I get a sense that I think that basically this climate emergency is a really important thing for you, and that not only if you look at through the lens of Elli, but also your previous experiences. Can you tell us or me why is it important for you, specifically that space?
There's only one planet, right? There is no planet B. And my generation and certainly previous generations have taken choices that are impacting the lives of our children and generations to come. And we are probably in this last part where we can still influence. I mean, a lot of decisions are already irreversible, but we can still do something to make this a livable planet. And when my son talks to me in 15-20 years from now and says, "Hey, Dad, what did you do in the 2020s? What did you do to make things better?" I want to have a good answer. And I will be able to say, look, I tried to build a better vehicle, a solar electric vehicle. I was part of the transition from fossil energies to renewable energies, using all these car batteries to as a storage to kind of address volatility in production and consumption. These are things that are, if we get it right, if we succeed, this is the right bet to be in, right? Certainly the right bet to be in, and if we get it right, we have a lot of chance to make things better for generations to come.
100% agree. Okay, I'd like to shift gears a bit and talk about your previous experiences also, or actually the portfolio of experiences. I'm wondering if you have any thoughts how to make European tech scene more competitive in comparison to US. You've worked with global companies, you've seen a lot, and so my specific question is that are there any aspects of these organizations that made them more innovative or more successful, and those aspects, what are those aspects and how to transplant them into European tech scene?
Yeah, I mean, this is a broad question, certainly,
yeah,
right?
Certainly.
And I think there's no straightforward answer, because otherwise we wouldn't even talk about US tech scene, Europe tech scene. What I have observed is, I mean, it's a lot around culture and mentality. And what I have observed working mostly with Mozilla, and we also had with Drive Now, we were contributing to Drive Now USA. And I mean, maybe even Drive Now USA is an amazing example. We just did it. We shipped the product, literally put cars on the streets of San Francisco, and there were, technology-wise and process-wise, there were a lot of questions we had, but we did it. We learned it as we go, and we inspected and adapted quickly. And I think that is this courage and this pragmatism is very important when you're working with these. This is not even cutting edge. This is bleeding edge technology. And also, if you look at, especially in our digital space, so often the shelf life of what we're building is 2 to 5 years. But if I decide for a year and discuss for another year and then build something, I'm late to market, and it will still be crappy, and I'll have to rebuild again after 3 years, because that's what happens with new product initiatives, right? So I'm not saying that you should, I'm not saying you should miss legal or compliance requirements. you need to have your things straight. I'm also, I'm not a big fan of move fast and break things, but move fast and fix things. Build resilient organizations. Build, anti-fragile organizations that bounce back in a better setup. And that is a mindset that needs to be cultivated. And now I've been in leadership roles for a while, but right now I'm in, I would probably say my best leadership role yet. And so it's my responsibility to open a space where people can fail safely, learn quickly, and be better tomorrow than they were yesterday.
Move fast and fix things. By the way, this is a great book apparently that is out there. I didn't know that. I just Googled it as you. I love this quote. I didn't know that one. Like I have reservations about moving fast and breaking things, and I like the version with fixing things much better. Because it could also puts you on a trajectory. It's not just about breaking things. Speaking of moving fast and fixing things, there's a lot of talk these days how organizations adapt to environments where the capital is somewhat more limited, or maybe not somewhat, but significantly limited. And there's a shift in the tech industry towards getting things done and being cost efficient. And I'd like to ask you about your observations in that field. What kind of changes have you observed in that context?
With interest rates rising, cost of capital goes up as well, and it's not as easy anymore to just say, okay, we'll take the free money and dump it on external consultants and get the job done, right? We are also seeing that here at Volkswagen, right? So we need to be more conscious and much more outcome focused than it was probably in previous years. I think that's a good thing, a very good thing. Mm-hmm. You should probably be outcome focused every day, all the time, right? That's also another thing I certainly learned when I was working for the Sixt family with Sixt and Drive Now. They are very, very outcome oriented, and I think it's again a mindset thing, right? And so here we are, 2024, the European car industry is navigating in challenging waters, and so what we do here as well here at Elli, and what I've been working on over the past few months, is also to make sure we are building cost-efficient structures, right? We had a substantial part of contractors on our team, and we are kind of transforming the workforce, making sure we build up internal employees in areas that are strategically relevant and important. And with this, automatically you get a much better cost structure. And so, that's kind of our approach here as well. We want to be fast, but not at all cost, right? We want to be fast and still be cost conscious.
Thinking a little bit deeper, so you mentioned prioritization, sort of shift in the composition of the team, internal versus external, and but have you also noticed any change that actually materialize or surface on technical level? Meaning, for example, dealing with architectural decisions a little bit different than in the past. There's a lot of talk these days that, for example, there's an approach of making things simpler. There's stories about companies that collapsed under the pressure or over-engineered, very complex distributed architecture that were not sustainable for smaller financing for our teams. And I'm wondering if that's the case that you've seen at Elli or somewhere else, that there's a basically shift towards making things simpler. Well, maybe that was always the case, and those teams or organizations that follow that path are in a much better place than others that didn't follow that. So I'm wondering, what are your thoughts on this?
Here at Elli Digital, we are not a big fan of architects, but we are big fans of architecture. So we just recently established the AAF, the Architecture Advisory Forum. So we are trying to keep decentralized decision taking, empower the edges, and still have some central kind of, as I say, forum around it, right? So the Architecture Advisory Forum convenes every couple of weeks, and we look at our ADRs, architectural decision records, make sure they move along as well as they can, unblock them, make sure certain functions of the organization are informed. And so through these groups and through these ADR mechanisms, we are, for example, driving a consolidation of PSPs, payment service providers. We historically have 2 payment service providers in our platform, but a business of our size does not need that. It adds too much complexity, because then you have, for example, when you implement fraud measures, they are sometimes very specific to your PSP, so you have to implement them twice. So these are things where we can gain efficiencies by driving coherent architecture, and also then coming up with the right team topology, maybe moving moving the payment connection from value stream oriented teams into a platform team, things like that.
Okay. May I ask a little bit about the ADRs? Can you tell us how often do they take place? Who can participate in those? Are these open meetings or limited or constrained to a certain group of people? How do they actually run?
Yeah, so ADRs can come from everywhere. And then we have a repo that notifies certain people around when exactly. And then we have the AAF is an open meeting. And we do have a few people who we ask to regularly participate. So a few engineering managers and product leads and design leads. So it's a very, again, a cross-functional meeting. We try to, we have regular participants, less than 10 people, to make sure it's still a forum where people can have a dialogue of sorts. We have people coming in only for specific ADR that they want to kind of discuss with this group, and then they kind of they come in, they discuss their point, and they leave again. So we have a very open culture around that, and at the same time we also measure effectiveness and impact every time after the meeting. We do a short ROTI, return on time invested, to make sure it stays a relevant and meaningful meeting to all the participants.
Are some kind of decisions made in this meeting, or it's more about the alignment?
We deliberately try not to take decisions, because that would make this a centralized decision body. So we don't want the AAF to be a decision board. We want it to be an empowering gremium, if you will. We are very, we might even say stubborn about this way, because we have strongly held beliefs that as leaders we need to foster decentral decision taking. We need to work to kind of avoid centralized instances as long as it's possible and meaningful. There might be areas where it's more than meaningful. For example, I have one person who takes care of planning the shifts that people take for the 24/7 IT ops, right? So there's one person who is central, accountable, responsible for that. But again, architecture, we have a microservices architecture, and it's not meaningful to have one or two central architects around this.
Mm-hmm. The team who runs the thing also owns the thing and makes the decision. Nice. Mandate, responsibility, and knowledge is all in one place. Nice. I also wanted to talk with you about diversity and inclusion. I know this is an important aspect for you, and I know that Elli has taken some steps in that direction. Can you please give us some more perspective on this from the company point of view, and how we deal with that?
Inclusion is dear to my heart. I believe that, as humans, everyone is different from the other person, even if we might look the same. And then in a team such as ours here, Elli Digital, we are growing very fast, and we have people of, I think, 24 different cultural backgrounds in the team. So there is a lot of diversity, and to to allow this diversity to come into effect and make an impact, that's where we need inclusion. And for me, inclusion means that I use my staff meetings to spend 5 minutes, and I call these 5-minute learning segments, where I speak about feedback mechanisms. I love Kim Scott's radical candor framework. Or I speak about decision-taking methods. I'm borrowing from the delegation poker from Management 3.0. I speak about nonviolent communication, kind of helping the team understand things that you might not have learned at your previous employer, or in school, or whatever you did before, right? And so it's really, really important that we build a culture where we can talk to each other, and also talk about how we talk to each other, and also give us language cues maybe that also help us express if something makes us feel uncomfortable. So we have introduced a purple flag, where we also have a kind of a Slack emoji for that, but it's not used too much on Slack, but more when we talk about, when we notice there is bias or prejudice, we can say, hey, wait, I think there was a purple flag in what you just said. Or if you consciously do this, like say, okay, I'm going to throw a purple flag at myself for saying this, and then you say it. So you at least express that you are aware of your biases, your prejudices, and therefore make it easier to kind of also say something about this, and make sure that you in the end hit the tone that makes everybody feel welcome, and that makes everybody get the feeling of belonging into our organization.
Very interesting. I think a lot of those things that you mentioned are counterintuitive if you go through the system of education or been in other companies. Is usually not out there. It's like you have a different kind of habits that you've learned along the way. Radical candor is not a popular thing, actually. I mean, the book is, but the actual behavior is not the case very often.
I agree. I think it's as is so often with many. The concept is simple. The implementation is hard, right? So it takes a lot of years of training, I would say. And I think Kim Scott does a great job in promoting her work, and I think it's also very important work that she does. But you're right. It's if you look at this from a geography-specific context here in Germany or in Munich, I think we still have a few things to learn. For me. Delegation poker is a very important component in the kind of how to work with me manual.
Exactly.
Because I sometimes I have a hard time saying clearly, am I trying to sell you something? Am I trying to consult you? And so I have the cards at my desk, and I hold them to the video screen and say, look, I want to sell this to you. And then then people know, okay, now he's gonna try and sell something to me. I can put my argument out there, but he's not gonna change his mind, right?
Exactly.
Or sometimes I say, look, I want to consult you, but you will hear this and it will come across like a tell. But I want to hear your opinion on this. I just didn't find a better way to say it, so I'm gonna tell it, and it also helps me to invite people to disagree with me.
My final question to you is related to advice. Could you give some advice to aspiring leaders who are stepping up the ladder, maybe becoming product leaders or technology leaders at organizations? Do you have some lessons learned along the way that could help them become leaders for the first time?
On the one hand, I'm conscious that I came up in a world that is very different to today's world, right? People who have, maybe 10, 15 years less of experience in the field than I have, they will have different trajectories. But I do believe that there's a few generally valid concepts, and I think one of the most important things is, in the end, if you work in the for-profit sector, keep an eye on the outcome. You're not paid for output, you're paid for change. And change is manifested as outcomes. So I think that is really, really important. And talk about these outcomes. Make sure people understand how you contribute to this. And I think that is, if I understand how somebody helps drive my impact and makes sure to let me know about it, then I will be more than happy to be their sponsor.
Thank you very much, Henrik. It was a pleasure. Thank you for the wise insights and sharing your wisdom. Thank you very much.
The pleasure is on my side. Thank you very much.
Better Tech Leadership powered by Brainhub. Follow Leszek on LinkedIn and subscribe to the Better Tech Leadership newsletter.